to Unclouded Eye. I'm Ashley Brooks.
And I'm Ty Gowan.
And we are your source for the astrological forecast and some cosmic chit chat.
And I've got some cosmic chit chat for you today.
Oh, please.
I don't know if anyone else will get anything out of this, but I just need to recap probably one of the best soul experiences that I have had this decade. I went to a D&D live show at the time of this recording. It was just a couple days ago, but you know, when we release this, it'll be like a week and a half ago. But It was at Madison Square Garden, New York. It's this. I've been listening to them since the pandemic because they're like literally injecting joy into your soul. It's a streaming platform called Dropout that used to be College Humor. But now they brought in a bunch of like these hilarious improv comedians, just such talented writing overall. And there's a group, they call themselves the Intrepid Heroes, and they create a show called Dimension 20. And they release a couple different seasons a year of like 10 episodes of them going on this adventure. And it's run by this genius named Brennan Lee Mulligan, who is just this extremely good writer.
He's the dungeon master.
He's the dungeon master, but he's able to do all these like character voices, and I just don't know how his brain processes at the speed required to pull all the information together that he does. But it was crazy because I found out in like 2019 they did a show in New York City, and it kind of reminded me of a Haunt Me event where there was a nice, you know, graphic projected behind them, and they had really nice tablecloths. Like that's right. What we were with Haunt Me, right?
Yeah.
And this year, I was lucky to get a ticket. They sold out 20,000 seats at Madison Square Garden.
That's amazing.
I've never felt so comfortable in a crowd. You know, like it was just a bunch of people, a bunch of nerds, honestly.
Among your people.
I was among my people watching a one-shot Dungeons and Dragons episode that takes place in New York City. And it was so cool because in the season, they have to pull on the power of the people and the heart and the dreams of New York City. In that season that they do, it's called The Unsleeping City, if anyone's interested. But in the one shot they did for everyone that was in that group that night, everyone that was at Madison Square Garden, we were the people of New York City. And so they had to pull on our power in order to make things happen. And it was so genius. The way that they did it is that we all had a website that they gave us that just roll a die. And so when they would call on the people of New York City, everyone busted their phones out and rolled, and it took the mode of, you know, the most often rolled number would pop up on the screen, and that was the city's dice roll.
That's so cool.
It was so cool, right?
Makes you feel like you're a part of it.
I was so into it. And It was so funny because they said, okay, the city will summon a character to either help or hinder you. If the roll is below 10, we'll bring a non-helpful and non-player character in from one of the seasons that will be sucked in from the realm to either help or hinder you.
Yes.
If it's above a 10, it's a hero. And I think we rolled all under 10, and it brought some of the best villains from some of the seasons behind. And it was just such good comedy. Oh my God, Ash. I had such a good time that I just wanted to share it with you.
And you get to go to a museum too, right?
I did. So like I've had like a couple hours to kill beforehand. And so I went to the Met because I've never been there before.
Yeah.
And I also apparently don't know too much about it. And they had the best Egyptian museum that I've ever seen. It was
so cool.
The youngest artifact that was in there was like 3,000 years old.
Wow.
And, you know, I've only really had the experiences of going to Egyptian exhibits where it's just like, this is what a hieroglyphic would have looked like back then, but it was painted by our staff member Betty, and then and dyed with tea, you know, like to look old.
It's just a replica.
And I'm looking at these hieroglyphics. I'm like, that is red clay paint that is 4,000 years old.
That is Mummy Brown.
That is Mummy Brown. Yeah. Exactly. We talked about.
Yes, in the Egyptian mysticism episode, if you haven't caught it. But yeah, when I went to the Boston Museum of Fine Art, they had a really amazing Egyptian exhibit, and I didn't know it was there, and we had gotten there kind of late, and the museum was going to be closing. So by the time we got to that wing, like we had to kind of rush through it, when I was just like, I could have been here the whole time.
I mean, I totally understand that.
I'm going to go back. I have to go back.
We should go back together.
We should, absolutely. I mean, they had cat mummies. They had just the most amazing sarcophagi.
I never have to pluralize that before today. So I'm not
Yeah, Gus's
Sarcophaguses, snuffleupaguses, sarcophaguses.
Yes,
Yeah.
I like sarcophagi. I think it's more elegant. But yeah, anyway, I want to go back. We should do that. That would be really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know why I have such a pull to Egypt, but like that Molly Brown episode we did was one of my favorite ones. So far.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was great. Like the little trinkets, I forget what they're called.
Yeah, me too. And I don't want to be offensive and try to remember right now because
go check out the episode if you haven't seen it. I'm sure past us will fill you in.
Well, I'll remember it in like 4 minutes and I'll interrupt your astrology forecast.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fine.
That's how my brain works.
That's wonderful.
So you let me have my nerd moment. I'm still like on cloud nine from being at that place. I want to be able to write fantasy like that man. And so,
well, you have done some great D&D campaigns. I've sat in, I've been a guest. I have a rogue elf character named Aeolus who comes in to pick locks and do weird acrobatics when your team needs some help.
And you're always welcome.
Thank you. I would love to come back. He's kind of stuck at whatever level he was at last time he played with you.
Don't worry, we got new characters, so they probably leveled up to where you are now.
Okay, so. Wonderful. All right, so you want to talk about the forecast for the week?
I do.
Okay. So we're just we're going to be talking about like the few major transits for the week. So rather than be like these are all 20 things that are happening, we're going to pick the big ones, and that way we can get a little more in depth so you can get the big themes for the week.
That makes a lot of sense to me because there's been some weeks where there's a lot happening in the sky, and I know that as the time of us recording this, there was like an astrology, the planets lined up in the sky.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's more of an astronomical event than an astrological one, which is interesting.
That's it. So astrologically, I figured like a gate would be opening or whatever.
There's actually no, like you wouldn't have seen it if you were looking just at the chart. It's not anything. So basically what that means is that all the planets are on the same side of the sun, which means that they're illuminated. And so they're all like visible to us.
Oh, okay.
Here on Earth. But when you look at the chart, they're all in different places. Like they're on one side of the chart, but that's not exactly abnormal. It's just more the fact that they are visible by the sun's light, depending on like where they are.
God, you're so smart. That's so cool.
I mean, I can't take full credit. You know?
I'm going to give you full credit.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Fine. I will take it. I've got my planet sweater on.
I love your planet sweater so much.
I've got another planet sweater queued up here. I'm going to cover Ty's face for just a minute to show you my stars and my...
Producer Nick will cut to the other camera.
My Saturns. Yeah.
That means that I'm not allowed to lift my left hand to drink tea. Producer Nick told me that we should probably just focus on me sitting on this hand because it covers your face like that.
Yeah. Well, for those of you who are listening to the audio, you know, we've got a very specific camera set up, so we can't cover each other.
Yeah. Producer Nick is also rolling his eyes and telling us to move on.
He doesn't like it when we talk about him.
I know. He's looking at us so uncomfortable right now. We should give him a break. Yeah, let's go.
So anyway, this week we're talking about Monday, February 3rd through Sunday, February 9th. And on Monday the 3rd, we have Mars squaring Chiron at 9:44 p.m. Eastern time. You know, I know you love Chiron, but this transit is terrible.
If anyone can square Mars, though, it would be Chiron.
Yeah,
I know Chiron has the power, the faith, and the ability to stand up to Aries.
Yeah, Chiron is in Aries right now. So Chiron's located at 19 degrees of Aries, and Mars is currently retrograde still at 19 degrees of Cancer. So Mars is a little debilitated right now. It's in its fall position in Cancer, so it's weakened, and it's also retrograde, and so it's getting squared by Chiron. So
tell me about the square here.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
So, I mean, a square is a tense aspect. It's a 90-degree angle that's going to produce some friction between the two planets. And Mars is already debilitated, so it's feeling like it can't act. Mars is all about action. It wants to take impulsive action. It's all about aggression, moving the body, getting energy going. So it feels like it can't do that. It's retrograde. It's in a sign that it doesn't usually do well in. And it's getting squared by Chiron, which is all about wounds and like the wounded healer.
Right.
So it feels as though like Mars could feel almost challenged by the energy of Chiron, and there could be some like over egoic stuff happening.
Oh, really? That's what would happen with there?
I mean, it's one interpretation. I have like a few places I'm going to go with this, but it could be because Chiron's all about wounds from the past, right? So it's like the wounds we carry maybe from childhood, or if you want to get real far out, past lives, like it's all old stuff. It's stuff that kind of like lives in the body that might be needing to be processed. So with Mars, that's like physical stuff. It could be physical ailments coming up for you this week. It could be pain. It could be some illness. It could be being more accident prone. But then it could also be like this, if you're feeling like you can't move forward, if you're feeling like you're being thwarted and you feel like insecure, some people project out more ego to cover that. If you feel like somebody else is trying to control you, either you cower and you hide from it, or you're like, no, I'm going to say I'm this way. I'm going to say I'm that way. I'm going to be the one that's in control here. So you might see people like have a lot of bravado this week, or they might go the opposite way and just totally shrink back.
That's either way, we're not going to be our right selves almost.
Yeah, it's a little troublesome. So the best way to deal with this is really to slow down, because if you try to push forward impulsively, there's more tendency for accidents to happen. There's just more like issues that you could run into. So you kind of have to slow down. You have to pace yourself, and acting from a place of like internal power rather than like trying to wield that power over other people. So like real true power. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's almost like, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm kind of thinking about like meditating on the energies of the other planets that might help you or whatever won't work this week. Like you got to go in, like you're alone on this one.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. And it's about accessing that internal strength, the internal power, and being able to like do that as a means of progressing, like rather than trying to wield that power over somebody else. So like as a way to like lead the path forward rather than like, I'm trying to think of a specific example. So let's say you're at work and you're feeling completely steamrolled. You feel like your ideas aren't being heard. You're feeling a little insecure.
Can I pause you for a second? Talking about ideas not being heard, there we got like a ghost situation going on in the corner behind you.
Oh my God, there's a light just blinking.
I know. And it stops. And then like when you talk about Chiron or Mars, it starts blinking again.
Okay.
Let's see, it's done. So let's see. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll call it out when it's blinking again.
Hello. Are you here with us? It's turning into an episode of Haunt Me.
Exactly. Do you like the forecast? We're going to keep going on the forecast.
So yeah, you're at work and there's something that's, it feels like your ideas aren't being heard. You're not being able to, stand up for yourself.
So would you say do you just wait it out type of thing? Like if you're not being heard and there's not an opportunity to be heard astrologically, like you're kind of swimming against the current a little bit.
Yeah. So like I'm picturing a table of people at a meeting. Like let's just go with this example. Just so we can walk people through it. You're at the table. There's some people that are just like, almost like yelling to be heard, or they're just talking over each other. And then there's some people that are just not even bothering to try because there's so much going on. There's so much chaos. And then, if you try to like speak up, then somebody gets mad at you because you cut them off. So I would say that the key here is not to completely close off, not to like just be like, well, I guess I'm not going to share any of my ideas then. Like, forget it. Like,
right,
they don't
which I
care
think a lot
anyway.
of people would have tendency to do.
Yeah.
That.
And it's also not let me like be the loudest one in the room so everyone else has to shut up. But it's maybe I write down some of my ideas and I send out a memo later on with them when people are maybe a little more calm.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Yep,
so that's how I would do it. It's all about being patient and strategic. That's how I would work with it.
Okay. Yeah. Because Mars pulling the strategy out of Mars.
Right. And I think Chiron would enjoy that too. So that would provide, a little more space. Just know that you might not be able to act right in the moment when you want to.
Okay, cool. Yep.
On Tuesday, the 4th, we actually have 2 transits happening that are both very significant. So at 2:56 a.m. Eastern time, Venus is entering Aries.
Okay.
And
welcome.
Yep, it's going to be in Aries for a little while, but then it's going to go retrograde and it will move back into Pisces.
Aphrodite stepping in, being like, I don't like this vibe that the war god has. I'm stepping back out.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going back to Pisces.
Going back to the water. Mm-hmm.
So Venus in Aries, it's going to be in Aries until March 27th because of the retrograde. So that's a pretty long time for Venus to be here. So very fiery, very bold, very impulsive, especially like if you think about Venus. Well, let's talk about it in the love context. This is more about like, just going for it, like being brave, asking people out, or, being very direct about what you want. And same with like social situations too. It's being very direct and not playing games. Venus in Aries is very much like, let's not play games. Let's not play hard to get. Let's just be bold and, say what we would like. And in creative context, it's much the same. It's all about being brave, trying new things, putting yourself into new places. Like Aries is very pioneering energy. It's all about doing new things and not worrying about what other people are going to think about it. Just stepping out and trying it.
The ghost agrees with you.
Okay. Yeah. It's blinking.
That's it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So weird. Are you getting any like ghost sense?
Not at all. Now? It's got to be a faulty light or something like that, but I'm going to go with it. It agrees with your forecast. Yeah.
It's fun. I don't know if it can. Oh, you can see it behind my head.
It looks like your face is flashing. That's so funny.
That's creepy. Okay. And then at 4:40 a.m. on February 4th, that's a whole lot of fours, we have Jupiter retrograde coming to an end.
Okay.
Yep. So this is a nice thing. At this point, we will only have Mars retrograde still. So there's a nice cleaning up of retrograde planets happening, although Venus will go retrograde next month, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
So Jupiter has been retrograde for about like 4 or 5 months, I think. I can't remember the exact date and I didn't write it down.
That's okay. I'm going to forgive you. He stays retrograde for a long time.
Yeah, all of the outer planets do. And Jupiter is considered kind of like in the middle between the personal planets and the outer planets. So it's kind of like, at least a few months. And so Jupiter is in Gemini right now. It's at 11 degrees of Gemini when the retrograde ends. And it will move into Cancer later this year. So that's going to be a pretty significant shift. And a lot of people are looking forward to that. I've seen a lot of excitement about that later transit online.
Okay.
Just because it's supposed to bring a lot of like love and like opening up of the heart. So people are looking forward to that.
What about luck? We need some luck.
I mean, Jupiter, yeah, I think so. I mean, Jupiter in Gemini, now that it's going to be direct, is going to be great for helping us to be able to like spin the wheel of luck. Yeah. Like I think you can take more risks when Jupiter is direct. When it's retrograde, there's more of a need to kind of, I don't know, plan your course. It's less about like wanting to take those impulsive leaps, and you got to be a little bit more patient and a little more like steadfast in your planning.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Jupiter direct, there's more of this energy of being able to take a chance and take a risk and be a little more like extravagant and exuberant in your energies. When Jupiter is retrograde, it's really great for like breaking the excess of Jupiter. So sometimes too much of something can be a bad thing. When Jupiter's retrograde, it's great for like quitting smoking or, breaking a bad habit that you've created.
Cool. Yeah.
So, if you're hearing this, like, and you're trying to get something done, maybe, doing it on Monday, like, trying to like get the ball rolling with that. Once Jupiter is direct, it can be a little more challenging to do that just because the energy of Jupiter is very much about like, let's just do the thing that feels good. Let's go toward what feels happy in the moment.
That's interesting because I think that there's like maybe now a misconception that retrograde is always bad.
Yeah, I don't think that that's the case. Like, I think that, we might get more in our heads about it. Like for instance, quitting smoking, like you might be like, why am I doing this to myself? Like some of the downsides of that could come up in the retrograde, like that leads you to that decision. Like, oh, my throat's always sore. Like, I'm spending all my money on this. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I follow. Yeah.
Yeah. So then that leads you to be like, well, maybe I should just quit.
Yeah. Gotcha. And this gives you that little bit of push to help do that without more resistance.
Yes, exactly. Then on Friday the 7th, we have 2 more transits. This is a bigger week. So on Friday, February 7th at 1:12 a.m. Eastern time, we have Neptune conjunct the North Node. And this is happening at 28 degrees of Pisces. This is a big transit. This is one, when you look at 2025, you're like, wow, okay, this is one that we would list. If we could only pick 5 to 10 transits, this is it.
Why? Because the nodes they always seemed like a little bit less of a big deal than the rest of the planets.
Well, they don't impact like daily life as much, but they're very karmic.
Okay.
So they're very much about collective energy. So I hesitate to use words like fate or destiny just because that's sticky. We don't really, who knows if that's something we can rely on.
Right.
But we can think about it as collective energy and the accumulation of energy. So the North Node is kind of what is needed to balance the energy right now.
Okay.
So the south node is where we're all kind of just landing when we're not really trying, like collectively. It's something that we might be moving toward as a society, but we kind of, it's creating imbalance. So the south node right now is in Virgo, which is very much about like details and the physical body and like being very present and being grounded in the body, but it also has that mercurial energy because Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So there's more of like this thinking and planning and analyzing energy to like the physical plane. Whereas the North Node in Pisces is asking us to think more of the collective, think more about like spirituality, think more about how our actions impact those around us, like subtle energies. And that can feel hard because when the South Node's in Virgo, we're all getting pulled away from that.
Okay.
So Neptune is a planet of spirituality. Neptune is a planet of breaking down boundaries. And so that is conjuncting the North Node. So there can be some confusion with this transit just because it's very whimsical and foggy and it's hard to put into words. It's very abstract.
Okay.
But it's very much about spirituality, and it can feel like we are like, you can feel the energy of this transit if you're sensitive. It can feel very, like, in fact,
would it feel heavy?
it could feel heavy.
Okay.
It could almost feel like you're getting pulled in a direction and you're not sure why.
God, that is this whole year so far already. Like
You're not sure why, but there's something that could be helpful there. There's something
God.
that,
This is tantalizing.
it's almost like, this is the weirdest example, but I'm picturing you're like walking down a foggy path and you feel really compelled to turn left, but you can't even see.
This is my whole life that you were describing.
Yeah.
Like literally being pulled by your gut.
Yeah, yeah, we're all entering into Ty's zone right now. So you're pulled to turn left. You're not sure why, but then like you find like a lantern there. So you're like, okay, like now I can use this lantern and now I can see a little bit better. Like I have no idea why I felt compelled, but now I have a lantern.
Can I share an anecdote here?
Yes.
Okay, so I had a dream in college. It was freshman year, and I was out of money, and I still had 2 months of school left to go. So it was going to be like very hard to feed myself, like outside the cafeteria type of moment. And I had this dream that I needed to go to Pottery Barn the next day and buy a blue mug. And I was like, I couldn't shake it, but my gut was pulling me. And I was like, I don't have money for this mug. So I actually got producer Nick's sister, because she was in high school at the time, and like we were just going to the mall, and I went and there was a blue coffee mug there, and it was on sale, and it was going to be like half of what I had in my bank account left, but I did it. I just listened to my gut, right? I was like, I don't know
like
why.
That makes zero sense logically.
Sense, and actually is a detriment to like what I think the path should be, right?
Yeah.
But like Neptune was pulling me so hard in this example that I did it. And so I didn't know why, and I was really feeling like bad about my choice when we got back in the car. And I was backing out of the parking space, and this woman came out of nowhere and hit the back of my car. And I just remember being like, what, WTF, like what's happening here? It ended up not doing that much damage to my car because I had a Saturn at the time, and it, couldn't be destroyed, and anything that scratched it was like whatever. But insurance gave me $600, and that's exactly what I needed to like finish off the rest of the year. And I still have that blue mug because I think about that every time of like, sometimes we don't know the whole story.
That's beautiful. That is the best example. That is perfect.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's exactly Neptune conjunct North Node. If we can all go get our own blue mugs, like whatever that is for you, like we could make our way out of this. We could have enough to get through the rest of the school year.
I can buy more than Tostitos for 2 months in a row.
That stuff happens to me a lot too. Like I'll be like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to be able to like pay this. And then suddenly like something happens and it's the exact amount of money I need that comes in. That stuff happens a lot.
Yeah. I love when you get to pay attention and give credit to that too.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, props, universe.
The light behind you loves it too.
Oh, good. So glad to make it. Okay, then finally on Sunday, February 9th, we have Mars trining Saturn at 8:14 a.m. Eastern Time. Mars is still retrograde in Cancer, but it's at 18 degrees now, and Saturn's at 18 degrees of Pisces. It is direct. And Mars trine to Saturn is great. This is great for getting stuff done. It's great for focus and taking responsibility. Really good for like scratching some things off the to-do list on that Sunday. And even in the weekend, kind of building up to that, it could be very productive and good to like stay focused. Now, keep in mind, Mars is retrograde and it's kind of in detriment. So when I say getting things done, like it might not be like, okay, I have the energy to get all 12 things on my to-do list checked off, but it's like, okay, I'm making progress.
Good. Yeah.
I only got 3 done, but they're done really well and I'm not going to have to redo them.
I love that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the week, this is actually the most active week of February. So we're kicking it off.
I'm glad we are kicking off in a big way. Listen to your Neptunes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, ready to dive into my section?
Yes, I am.
This week? I actually picked this one because I know that you, I don't want to put like a judgment on you because people don't know you, but like you love some sports.
I do. And a lot of people are very surprised. When
Exactly.
That's
what, thank you for saying it for yourself. I didn't want to put that on you.
No. I don't seem like a person who would love sports, but.
What's your favorite?
I watch the most basketball.
I
watch the Celtics, pretty much every Celtics game. And I do love baseball too, just because I grew up loving baseball.
Totally.
Red Sox, yeah.
And I remember, when I met you in high school being like, oh, cool. It's the music girl,
Yeah.
who is like knows everyone on the Red Sox, it was really inspiring. So I wanted to do this topic this week because we're going to do sports curses. Which I think is going to be just,
I love it.
It was a wild topic to research because like we've been in the paranormal field for 10 years now, longer when you think about it.
Yeah, but professionally, well, it's been 13 years since the first season of Haunt Me.
Yeah, so like we're over a decade of that we've been working on this, and we've been interested in it before then. But the reason why I bring that up is because I would have assumed that being in that community, we had met the most superstitious people in the world. But after doing this topic this week, it's sports fans.
Sports fans, but also players. Yeah.
Like the big playoff beards, the grizzly stuff, not washing your clothes between like playoff games and stuff.
Yeah, or they'll wear the same like headband every time because they got a home run once when they wore it.
Are you into sports enough that like you have rituals for your teams at all? Or do you know any of them for the Celtics that you've heard of?
As far as what other people do?
Yeah, or what you do. Like if you have anything that you do as a little good luck charm for your team.
I mean, I wouldn't say not really. I try to take all that with a grain of salt, but I do think that I've noticed it for sure in the community. People are very superstitious. I remember there was on the Celtics Reddit page, there was a guy that was posting pictures of his dog in a Celtics jersey every night before the game, and they kept winning. And so people were like, you have to keep posting these pictures. We think it's him helping, So the guy kept posting the pictures, and then one day they lost and they're like, stop, you got to stop.
You know what? I would say that's a victimless crime. There's no downside to posting cute pictures of dogs and jerseys.
Yeah, right. I enjoyed them.
That actually leads me into my first curse. It actually has to do with an animal.
Okay.
Because I thought I was going to find a couple curses and share them with you. I found pages. There's so many sports curses out there that I just kept it to the top 3 that I found interesting. There's no data of why I picked these besides I wanted to talk about them.
Yeah, well that's a great reason.
So what would be fun though is let me know when I name these if you've heard of them.
Okay.
As a sports fan. Have you heard the Billy the Goat curse?
No.
For the Chicago Cubs? Okay. So the year for this one is 1945, and there's a man named Billy Cianis. He's an avid fan of the Chicago Cubs, and he's also the owner of the Billy Goat Tavern. And it's named that because he has a pet goat, which is delightful, right?
Right.
So, in 1945, again, the world's different. He's bringing his goat to all of these regular season games because he's a season pass holder and no one cares. So there's a goat at the game.
That sounds amazing. I want to go.
But when the Chicago Cubs reach the World Series, they're against the Tigers at that point. and the venue's full. And so apparently he's a season pass holder, but there's more regular ticket holders there than normal. And they start to complain about the smell of the goat, right?
Oh, no.
So the Cubs officials actually asked Cianis to leave the game, or they would take his goat away from him during the remaining innings for the sake of the patrons. And he decided that he would leave. And he also then sent a telegram to the Cubs owner about how he and his pet were treated unfairly. And he is a lifelong fan. But he said, unfortunately, he hopes that the Cubs never win a World Series ever again for the way that him and his goat were treated. And that's held true. They've never even come close, except in 2003. They made the playoffs, but like that was it. They've never won a World Series since getting rid of the goat.
They should probably just bring a bunch of goats in.
So that's actually really interesting, because that's similar to what my next one kind of came up with, is the Superdome curse in New Orleans. Are you aware of this one?
No, I'm not. I'm learning so much.
So this blew my mind. The Superdome in New Orleans is built on top of a cemetery from the 1800s.
Oh, no.
Right. We've all seen the movies of what happens when you do this. So after the Superdome Stadium was built, the Saints didn't win a single playoff game for the following 33 years. So they decide, should we appease the GOAT curse, So they want to appease the spirits, because they're really at the end of their rope here. So in 2000, the belief in the curse was so strong that the Saints held a voodoo ritual led by a priestess named Ava K. Jones. The purpose was to honor and appease the spirits that were had their final resting places disturbed. And it worked because they did it, in that same day they won their first playoff game in 33 years.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah.
Okay.
They lead into the curse.
Yeah. You got to.
Then the last one is the only one that I had heard of before, and I think it's worth mentioning. But have you heard of the Madden Curse?
I don't think so.
Okay, this one is funny. You might have. It has the same curse effect as the Sports Illustrated cover curse.
Okay.
Whereas, so the video games like Nintendo 64, I think, had the first time that Madden was out. It was like Madden 99.
Yeah.
If you were featured player on the cover of the game cartridge, it basically meant that your upcoming season was going to go in a very bad, possibly career-ending way.
Wow.
So
okay, yeah. So if anyone doesn't know, that all those sports games, there's always like one of the big stars for the year is on the most recent version of the game.
Mm-hmm. So much. This curse is so prolific that for this and Sports Illustrated, players actually ask and put in their contracts not to be featured on the new Madden games or Sports Illustrated. They don't even ask me. It's not even, we're not going to do it.
What if they just put like a whole team on there? What would happen?
It would be like, we'd bring it back to the Cubs. Yeah. Like they would like just put it on a team that already has bad luck.
Yeah,
just dump it on that.
Yeah, like who's signing up for it now? Just people that don't care?
Literally, people get suckered into it, apparently.
Yeah, it's just money.
So I've got some examples for you, though.
Yeah, please.
So Madden 99 is the first time a athlete is featured on the cover. His name is Garrison Hurst, and he breaks his leg and misses the next two seasons immediately after the game comes out.
Because you have to be a pretty well-known and like good player.
Yeah, that's why they're putting you on the cover.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't really, do much football stuff, but like I know who Barry Sanders is.
Yeah.
So he's on it in the year 2000, and he gets retired while he's still in training camp.
What?
Duante Culpepper is featured in 2002 and throws 23 interceptions that season and breaks the record for fumbles.
Oh, no.
Marshall Falk is in 2004, and his career tanks after the game was released. Donovan McNabb tears his ACL immediately after like the game gets released.
Oh no!
So I mean, you get the idea. But football is full of injuries anyway. However, like I said, it's so widely known that people petition not to be on it because they do feel like this would be part of the curse.
It's a pattern, yeah.
So those were my three little curses I want to tell you about today. And I think the most famous curse out there is the one that I'm going to save for our topic of the week. So are
Okay.
you ready for the birthday?
Yes, I am.
So February 6th, 1895, Baltimore, Maryland, 1:45 p.m.
Alrighty. So we have an Aquarius sun here with their moon in Cancer and Cancer rising. So this is a person who does things their own way. They are their sun's in the 8th house. So there's an intensity to them. This person carries an intensity and they don't necessarily fit in with other people. Like they do it their own way. But there's also like a soft side. Moon and Cancer conjunct the ascendant. Like they have a big heart. They wear it on their sleeve and people do look up to them in a way. There's like a sense of like, you'll protect me. You'll keep me safe.
Myself and the light ghost. I absolutely agree.
Okay. Thank you, light ghost. And they have a grand trine between their moon in Cancer, their Mercury and Pisces, and their Saturn and Scorpio.
So they're charmed a little bit.
Yeah, so they have some luck. They have that water luck. So there's like an intuitive quality to this person. You know, Mercury and Pisces conjunct Venus and Pisces. They have like they're probably really good at reading people and reading situations, and they can probably like tap into that like Neptunian energy we were talking about. There's a certain energy there that they can like really get into.
For me, knowing this person from the research I did, it sounds like that probably helped them survive their childhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I do see Mars opposite Uranus and Mars is in the 11th house. They might have had to deal with like a lot of conflict in their life. Like there's like an unpredictability to like some of the early life, and that could have led to like a slight temper or like just a slight like emotional volatility as a result.
Yep. Light ghost degrees.
What?
The light ghost degrees.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. So for those of you who are listening, this light is just going bananas over here.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I forget. So people on Spotify and streaming services only. There's a light behind Ash that is absolutely just digging her natal chart for this person.
Yeah, it's very nice. Thank you. So then, yeah, they've got Pluto conjunct Neptune in the 12th house. So there's a lot of intuition here, but this person doesn't really understand that that's what they're doing. They wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, I'm intuitive, I'm psychic, but there's a certain like gut instinct that they access.
That's interesting to think about because, again, this person is a sports player who I wouldn't have assumed would give any credibility to this type of reasoning.
And I don't think that they would. I think that they wouldn't use the same language that I'm using to describe, but they do understand that they have a certain knack for like reading situations, but I think they wouldn't describe it in any sort of kind of like woo-woo way.
And would that be social situations or could it be sports?
It could be both. I mean, if you think about it, there is like a social camaraderie to it, being able to read people like this. When this player's here on this, they tend to do this when they're,
yep, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, like you're reading like energies of people and situations, but you're also like, feeling into like, okay, the ball, like I'm feeling the air and today it feels like the ball is going to blow this way. Like there's a lot of different energies, and I don't know why, like I'm thinking baseball, but like that's just the energy. Just also looking at the year this person was born. Baseball was one of the primary sports around this time.
Right. Like we hadn't brought over lacrosse yet.
Yeah. This person probably isn't curling.
Right. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. So that's like one of the main things. And then Saturn is squaring the sun. So this person is persistent. They might have encountered a lot of obstacles, but they're persistent. They're not going to give up. The sun's also squaring Mars. Very stubborn. So they do have a T-square in addition to having that grand trine.
Oh, that's weird. That's conflicting, right?
Yeah, but it makes them resilient. The sun is at the apex of the T-square. It's squaring over to Saturn and Mars, which are opposing each other. Or I'm sorry, Uranus. It's not Saturn, Uranus. So Uranus is opposing Mars, and then those are both squaring up to the sun. So yeah, there's a certain unpredictability to this person, but they're also very stubborn. They are very resilient. They're not going to give up easily, and they're, a little bit unpredictable though. I think other people might find them like they might see themselves more as being very almost routine and persistent in their efforts, but other people might read them as very unpredictable.
That's really fascinating, and I think you hit the nail on the head per usual.
Okay.
I will ask you, does it say anything about like legend status? Like how are they revered?
So their midheaven is in Pisces. There's nothing in their 10th house of legacy, but the midheaven in Pisces would mean that there is some sort of like intuitive energy to how they're remembered. There's something to do with like something maybe mystical. Like, I don't, maybe because you're talking about them, that makes sense. I wouldn't say necessarily that like I wouldn't look at this chart and be like, oh, this person is a legend forever. But I think that they maybe were unique enough to carve that out themselves. But I don't know that their birth chart signified that.
Maybe I think maybe that midheaven mystical nature is enough for me because they obviously have a curse that they left behind for quite some time. You ready for the reveal?
Yes.
This is the great Bambino himself.
Okay.
Did you know it was
I had a feeling
Babe Ruth while you were reading
I
it?
didn't know for sure, but I did have a feeling.
So
just because that's like the most famous sports curse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, and you're familiar with the curse of the Bambino.
Oh yeah, of course. I grew up a Red Sox fan. Yes.
That's really what pulled me in.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what the curse is about. I want to know more.
Yeah.
So I also found out that his real name is George Herman, and I love Babe for him much more than that. So he was the reason. Let's just dive in, okay? Because he has a lot going on in his life that I had no idea about. But he was actually born in a very poor neighborhood of Baltimore to two parents who both owned a tavern and worked really hard. He had 7 other brothers and sisters, although he was one of only 2 that survived infancy. Like, early 1900s is rough, man. Because of that and because of his parents' need to work to support the family, he had like almost no supervision, and he was known as a wild child because of it. So at age 7, after being continually caught wandering busy dockyards, drinking alcohol and chewing tobacco, as well as harassing local cops.
So he was just born like a little old man.
Literally, exactly. Like he was never young, and he hated the police. So at 7, his family relinquishes him to St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys, aka a Catholic orphanage. They literally got rid of him.
Wow.
And so he lived there for the next 12 years. Luckily, this is where good stuff takes a turn for him. A monk named Brother Matthias really took a liking to George Herman and acted like a father figure for him while he was at this school. He was the one that introduced Babe Ruth to baseball.
Okay.
That's so sick to be able to be like this, like this guy changed this person's life so much.
Yeah, like what if he hadn't met him? Where would he be?
Back in the dockyards.
Yeah, he'd be drinking out of a paper bag.
Yeah, exactly. Chewing tobacco at age 9 now.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
So Brother Matthias realized that by the time that Babe Ruth was only 15, that this kid was exceptional.
Yeah.
He had a gift like you talk about. That's about the time that, or maybe a year after, so he caught the eye of a local seed team captain for the Boston Red Sox. And a seed team is like a local team that then provides players to the majors.
Yeah, so like we have the Sea Dogs, like in Portland.
And they are now the seed team for the Red Sox, right?
Yeah, so they'll have they pull some players from the Sea Dogs there, or if somebody's like slightly injured on the Red Sox, they'll go down to the Sea Dogs where it's not quite as intense, and it's there's that for baseball teams, basketball teams.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is how he got his start.
Cool.
So the owner realized that he was way too young to play baseball. So the owner, this is so sketch. The owner basically adopts him and becomes his legal guardian only to sign the contract to get Babe Ruth into baseball underage. Wow. So he's the youngest person on the seed team by far, and that's where his name Babe comes from.
Okay.
Just like that's real sketch, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's great for Babe Ruth, but I mean,
he was probably excited by, I guess there's worse things.
Drinking on the docks would be worse.
Yeah.
So he's quickly called up from the farm team to the Red Sox because he's a left-handed pitcher. And over the next 5 years, he helps them win 3 championships, including one in 1916 where he pitched 13 scoreless innings. I mean, I'm not a baseball kid, but that's insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right?
So that went into like overtime and
just
extra innings.
And then, however, he is faced with personal financial hardships. Or no, he's not. The owner of the Red Sox are. So he has to downsize the team. And unfortunately, he sold Babe Ruth's contract to the Yankees for a lot of money. And that's when the curse of the Bambino begins.
Yeah, you can't do that.
So he did. And basically, it's not like a curse that Babe Ruth invoked, which I
No.
thought it was for some reason when I started
It's
this.
like the Red Sox are getting punished for being greedy.
Greedy. Exactly. They should have kept the Bambino because it seemed like the curse worked both ways. So the Red Sox didn't win another World Series in 2000 until 2004.
I remember that. That was epic.
And then also for Babe Ruth, it really hampered his success as soon as he started with the Yankees. His own personal demons caught up to him, which I don't know if that's in his star chart at all. Maybe the T square a little bit.
Yeah, the T square. He's got a lot of stuff in his 12th house, Pluto in the 12th house. So there's a lot in the subconscious that he was maybe ignoring.
Yeah, it sounds like while he was being really, really on top of his game, right? He was able to ignore it. But from what I learned, he was a great lover of food, booze, sex, and spending money. And that really physically brought him into decline and prevented other teams from taking a chance on signing him.
Yeah, he has an unaspected Jupiter in the 12th house. I just caught that. So unaspected Jupiter would be like the excesses of Jupiter, and it's in the 12th house. So it's like without even really trying, that's where he's just defaulting.
He's defaulting to outliving his means quite a bit. So overweight and slower than he'd ever been. Babe Ruth takes to the field for his last game on May 25th. 1935. He hits 3 home runs because he's still great at that.
Of course.
And then retires after that game. Sad, right? But everyone has to end sometime.
Yeah.
He had a great run.
He did. And he'll always be remembered as one of the greats.
Yeah. And he also never slowed down with his vices either. And unfortunately, 13 years later, he passes away from esophageal cancer because he's been smoking since he was 7.
Yeah. Child
so,
smoker,
it catches up to you.
Yeah.
So quick.
Sorry to laugh. I'm just the 7-year-old smoking.
I know, 7-year-old in the dock. I can just see him in the little newsy hat.
I know. I just picture him like how he looks as an adult, but small.
But smaller. I don't know. It's exactly what's in my face too. Yeah. So fast facts about Babe Ruth that I found that didn't fit anywhere else in this is that trying to keep him out of school or trouble as a kid, he attended a tailoring class, and he was actually a really talented shirt maker. So maybe that's where he would have gone if he didn't go to baseball.
Wow, that's so cool.
He spoke fluent German.
Oh, okay.
Learned from his mother. He had a habit of wearing a chilled cabbage leaf under his hat to stay cool. So if anytime you ever see footage of Babe Ruth out on the field, he probably has cabbage on him.
What if he smelled like cabbage?
It's awful. So he's inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1936 with the nickname the Sultan of SWAT. And this plays into the next fact, which I'm going to do a little bit of math. But in 1927, he hit 14% of the entire league's home runs.
Wow.
So that is 60 in 154 games. So to hold that percentage now, he would have had to hit 300 home runs in one season.
Wow.
Which is crazy. In his whole career, he hit over 714 home runs, and he is still in 3rd place of all time.
That's incredible.
Yes, and that's Babe Ruth.
Wow, what a legend.
I know, right?
So when the curse broke, like they didn't do anything to break it. It just took that long.
It just took that long.
Deteriorate.
Yeah, exactly. I think like from the hot meat angle, we think that there has to be something to reverse the curse, right?
Right.
And so for whatever reason, it just needed to wear out.
Yeah, maybe a curse just like fizzles out over time, But then they sent Johnny Damon to the Yankees. It's like, did you guys not learn?
Did you not learn? Now we're going to have... the curse needs to have a savvy name too. So it has to be like the Damon demonic curse or something like that. Because the curse of the Bambino just has such a flair to it.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah. Okay, that was a lot of fun. I really liked that one.
Yeah, that was just for you, Ash.
Thank you. Yeah, I wonder if there's any people out there who love sports and astrology equally.
I know. Like, are there other people who fit in the center of the Venn diagram with you, Ash?
I don't know.
We got to find them.
Yeah, not all astrology fans like sports. Not all sports fans like astrology, but
reach out if you're in the middle.
Yeah.
If you've got a favorite baseball team or a favorite curse.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So if you would like to book a reading with me, I'm going to drop a link in the show notes for this on both YouTube and on your podcast app. So I am booking readings for astrology and tarot.
And what about natal charts? Do you do that? Because
do.
those are so cool when you're able to do those for people.
I do natal charts. I do transits and birthday readings, all kinds of stuff. So all the options will be at the link below.
Love it. Highly recommend. And thank you for this, Ash. This was wonderful.
Of course. Thank you, Ty. And I hope you all have a wonderful week. Follow Neptune. Get your blue mug.
Get your blue mug.
Unclouded Eyes stars Ashley Brooks and Ty Gowan. It is produced and directed by Nick Nordfors. Music by Ashley Jane Cecilia and Jay Caron. Our community manager is Erin Cross. Art by Dawn Aquarius. We are presented by Haunt Me at Haunt Me Official on YouTube. Follow Unclouded Eye at Unclouded Eye on Instagram and TikTok.